Alex, welcome to Camera Conversations, optimised by Pure Sport. Are we ready to rumble?
Yeah, ready to rumble always. Well, I try to be, but as much as you can be with a 1-year-old, I guess.
Yeah, good. Well, I think like when I've been getting introduced to you, looking at all your stuff, I feel like you're juggling many balls, but all of them are really in alignment at the moment, and you feel like you've chosen things that really matter to you at this moment in time.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you have a child, it puts it into perspective. Beforehand, I felt a bit lost in terms of what I wanted to do and pursue, but then mainly because you've got so much time available. But now I don't have any time. You can only focus on what's super important. So that's what I've been working on recently. It's just like focused. What's that thing like? Tunnel vision.
The blinkers are on.
The blinkers are definitely on. Yeah.
That's funny. Like if we have too much time to ruminate, we don't focus as much as we maybe could. So by removing time to maybe get in our own heads, we're a bit more directional.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I think fingers in many pies has been something that I've had like my whole career. And now it's like, oh, I understand the landscape to a point. I think it's also a maturity thing. It's about how much
early 30s as well. I think that helps.
32, same as you. So you've done the stint in your 20s. You understand like what it takes to succeed. And then also the steps, you can kind of plan out the steps to get there. Whereas when I was 25, I was just like throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks and hoping for the best.
I think though, during that period where you are throwing stuff at the wall, you still gather valuable experience. We were speaking about some of the people I've got to speak to on the podcast so far in the last 5 years, and one of them is Dr. Meg J, and she talks about a concept called identity capital. And that's all the different experiences we have across our life getting put into this like bank account of identity capital and experience that we then cash in later.
Amazing.
So at 25, you probably got into socials and started to understand how the likes of short form content worked in creation, and that served you really well. You have a business in it.
Yeah.
But at the time, did you know that that was going to be the thing? And there's probably other things that you did at the time that you will never ever touch again because you were like, oh, it didn't work for me. Let's leave it.
Yeah, 100%. So I actually, my social career started behind camera at Unilad. You may remember Unilad.
I do.
So I left university, did a couple of years in recruitment or something, and then met the Unilad guys who started the channel and joined them as one of the, I think I was third or fourth, one of the early employees. And then we basically stole everyone's content, made this channel really good. And then alongside that, I learned the valuable things I needed to build my own channels. So I was like, if they're making this much money doing this, I should start doing it. So I was like, early adopters always do best, right? And I was one of the early ones across Instagram and Facebook and those like glory meme days of Facebook where you could post like, when my wife gets home from work, and you do like a little skit. That's where I learned.
That kind of became Vine for a bit, didn't it? That sort of stuff. Were you on that?
No, I think I just missed Vine. I was a bit late to the game with that. I wish I had. Well, I don't know. I think YouTube would have been the one. If you'd been an early adopter on YouTube and you're a Zoella or just somebody uploading their life, I don't think it took a lot to succeed then because it was so new.
Production quality was less as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And now everyone, well, you've seen yourself, everyone's trying to like reinvent the game. What's the different formats? What's next? It seems like back then loads of stuff was coming, so you could keep reinventing and adjusting to new platforms. But now we've kind of got the status quo. It's really hard to build in a saturated market.
Apart from losing time to ruminate and second guess yourself, what else has helped you be a bit more directional? And I guess for the listeners, it's the rugby commentary sports presenter piece that you're really going all in on now.
Yeah, I think so. In 2018, I had a brief stint on reality television.
I've gone back and done my research, bro. I'm laughing.
So I pretended to be a woman on national television, and
there's the trailer clip.
Yeah, and I pretended to be my wife on national television for 6 weeks. Catfished everyone, won a load of money, basically, is the crux of it. And I kind of had this brief stint in mainstream media where I understood a bit about the landscape, and I was like, I'm going to struggle here, white middle class man in a ecosystem that's not favouring that at the moment, completely understandably. How do I cut through and succeed? So I came off the show and I was kind of put into this reality TV box, which I really struggled with because, as I said, Unilad, social, I'd grew loads on social before the show. And then everyone's like, why are you doing this, like all this social stuff? You're just a reality TV guy. Go and do like teeth whitening or something. And I was like, right, I'm going to have to take a bit of downtime here. I went back behind camera, which I was good at, worked for 6 years, and so until I identified what I really liked doing, which was presenting. So last year I got on, very lucky to get on like an ITV show for the rugby, and I was like, this is my thing, love it. And like, when you know, I think at our age, I was like, right, here we go, hyper focus, let's do it.
That's such a good point. When you know, when something feels right and it gives you a positive feedback loop. And we were talking today that I've got 4 podcasts that we're doing today for my show, and then half an hour later in the same studio I'm a guest on somebody else's. And you were like, oh, it's gonna be a mad day. It is, but Tim Cook quote, the tools will be heavy but they'll feel light in your hands. There's elements that I could do this all day as long as I was speaking to people I'm interested and excited to speak to. If you maybe like, if they're like, if I end up booking a guest and I was like, goodness me, I don't know why I'm talking to them, like about astrophysics or something like that, I would really struggle. But I just feel like boundless energy for it. And in the way that I was joking with you that you would probably drive 5 hours from London up to Newcastle Falcon Stadium to do like a Premiership rugby game because it's something that you're like, oh, I just want to do this right now.
100%. And also, you know that opportunities are scarce in when you're at that level. And I think I've had a lot of rejection, but each one just like makes me want to work harder. Whereas before, I would have probably 10 years ago, I'd have gone, all right, I'm probably not right for this. Like, what's the next thing? But now I'm just like, fuck yeah, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Was there anything in your past that pointed to sports presenting that you liked doing when you were younger?
Lots of people kept telling me that I was good in front of camera. I've always been a bit of a performer. But where I like presenting is that I can turn up, I can do a bit of studying, similar to what you did with the pod, turn up, do my thing and leave. But being a content creator, as the editor, director, creative, that's what it gives me a bit of brain overload. Like, I would rather just turn up, do what I'm good at, which is the front of camera stuff, chat for a bit, then go home and be like, But when you're in this content creator mode, which I've also done, it's constant. What am I posting tomorrow? Right, better start editing that, filming that. And then that combined with fatherhood is quite a lot of load.
These days, it feels like every brand is shouting about how supplements are the answer to everything and all your problems. Before you jump on the latest wellness trend, it's worth remembering the foundations and basics come first. Hydration, good nutrition, rest, movement are the real keys. When you do decide to supplement, however, what you choose really does matter. You know I'm a big fan of removing toxins and unnecessary things from your lifestyle, and I ensure that my supplements are free from additives, artificial flavors, and any unnecessary, dirty, toxic fillers. Personally, having seen many professional athletes and top performers utilize their products, I decided to give Pure Sport supplements a go. Their products are built on science-backed information, minimal ingredients, and they do exactly what they're meant to. Whether it's their best-selling ultra electrolytes to keep you hydrated and energized, their deep magnesium to support with quality sleep, or even their natural testosterone boosting Tonka Ali, I trust that what they make is developed to care for me and my body. Explore the full range of Pure Sport supplements at the link in the show notes, puresport.co, and use the code CAMBRO10 for 10% off.
It's good you recognise that because we all have finite capacity, don't we?
Yeah, and it's what you're good at. If I was really good at editing or enjoyed it, then I'd probably prefer just the editing side and behind camera side, or make content around that, and that'd be really natural. But one of my biggest struggles throughout my whole content creation career was not having a niche. Whereas like a fitness niche would have been amazing. If I could go back and change something, it'd be find what you love, like a niche, rugby, and just double down and execute, rather than being like, oh, a bit of this, bit of that. Oh, here's a funny skit with my wife. Because it's just flat. Everything, you don't like build a valuable audience that you can monetize. Sorry, I'm getting a bit niche there.
No, I really agree with that, because if you're too broad, how do you ever connect an audience? So for example, you look at your demographics and it's like 50-50 men and women across so many different age groups. You're like, oh gosh, I'm in a bit of a problem here. Whereas again, kind of naturally over the last couple of years in particular, my demographics become like 80-20 men, women, mostly aged between 25 and 35, all interested in improving across either brain, body or business.
Amazing.
And I just know that I produce an episode that's in line with that and it will generally do well. Okay, we'll go from there.
Yeah, and mine's the opposite to you. Mine's 80% women, 20% men, which was from the reality TV thing. Really, like, as much as it was good, also stuffed my social stuff, because firstly you get this huge influx in following and the relevancy of that trails off over time. So now the engagement's way less than it was, obviously. And then secondly, the demographics are very skewed to who watches a show rather than who's interested in you. So now I'm doing the parenthood stuff way better. My engagement's popping again. The rugby stuff, slightly worse unless I do a collab with a big brand. So I'm building that audience and working on that. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's recognizing these things, isn't it? And I think when you there's a whole concept called audience capture, when you just throw red meat to your audience all the time that serves them, and you stop creating for you and what's in alignment with you, and you just create for what you know gets clicks. So if that is, and this is something that happens with a lot of like Love Island contestants, they, even year, 2 years, 3 years after being on the show, they do like watch alongs or they do like live reactions, and you're like, why are you still clinging to that? But they're clinging to it because that's what performs best with their audience, because their audience primarily followed them because of the show.
Yeah.
So for the months when it's not on, nobody's watching their channel, but when it's on, they pop off again. Yeah. And I think that for me is like handcuffing yourself to a previous version of yourself.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. Like when you start getting paid for stuff, it becomes, you're even more incentivized to keep being in that echo chamber of like doubling down on what gets those brand deals and gets people interested. So you become reliant on engagement being like so high because it brings in money. So when I was a full-time content creator, I just fell out of love with it. It put pressure on my relationship, it put pressure on everything, because I was like, oh, I got a deal in for some brand. Millie, my wife, can you come and help me and be in the video? Then we'd have an argument during the video because she's got a different vision to me. Then like, and the money's coming in and it's great, but I fell out of love with content creating, which is why the rugby thing's really nice and refreshing for me. And I also fell out of love with monetizing my content because it was just so intense and high pressure. And then you lose your creativity if you're in that world. And I think that's what happens with all the Love Islanders, as you say. Keep posting pictures of me and on Love Island, or this was what it was like behind the scenes and stuff like that. Cool for the first year, but then what's next?
It's exhausting. You've got to have longevity, and I think if I look at how you're getting on with your rugby side of things, you seem like a boundless passion for it.
100%. And I never had that before in content or in work even as a whole.
Really, never in any other forms?
I never had any job that I would love. I would always come home being like, oh, it's work. Rugby's the one thing I come home from being like, I could do that all day, every day. And
did you grow up loving the sport?
Yeah, I've played since I was 4, so it's natural to me. And my stepfather is like a really big rugby guy, so he's taken me to games ever since I was young and like grew up on it. So it's nice. I'm passionate about it. It's not doing well as a sport right now. So who knows? I'm trying to position myself so that if it does pick back up, or if there's another angle I can take, I can do it.
Yeah, and we're in a time period where if you niche down, there will be something within the niche that will serve you over the longer term. And at the moment, as long as you're abundantly approaching it, you give yourself the best possible chance of taking advantage. So when opportunity knocks, have your shoes on.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good saying.
So at this moment in time, you're building up your experience in presenting and in rugby, and whatever happens, like, Guinness launched this show to support the Premiership, or the Six Nations launched this show to support the thing. Oh, who will we get to present it? Oh, well, we'll get this guy, and I saw that Alex guy on Instagram, like he would be good for this segment. Okay, great. You take advantage by positioning yourself to take advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the hardest thing is you get a lot of rejection, particularly. You need to understand that like the landscape's weird because TV is still where the money is for rugby. Like the TV rights, being on TNT Sports or wherever it is, a paid subscription service owned by Warner Brothers, that's where the money is. So that's where a successful full-time career in presenting is. But where it's going is social, but that's not very well funded in the rugby space at the moment. So it's like, how do you balance that? How do you still strive to be a serious pundit, presenter, broadcaster, whilst also having fun on social and making content? And that's the balance I'm really trying to strike. And it's difficult. It's very difficult because the more I do social, the more broadcasters and the old men in the seniority at wherever are going, not sure about
They
him.
question if you're a right fit for them. But what they should be doing is looking at what's successful in social and try and bring it across the TV. Like legacy media is dying.
Yeah,
and because there's a license fee and because people still have this big thing on their wall that they turn on every day, that's the only reason it's still standing.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct. So it's a fine line, and I'm really trying to navigate it well. But I think I've just got to walk that balance between being serious about rugby, but also being my stupid self, which is my personality. And if I lose one or the other, I'll go heavily into.
I wrote down from one of your posts that you're trying to strike the balance between overly casual as a presenter, but also remain authentic and relatable and engaging. And authentic, relatable, engaging are 3 words that carry weight as the type of person that people like to watch and consume.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the reaction to my content has been so positive, overly positive in the rugby space. You get the odd person that's like an older gentleman who's like, who's this new guy type thing. And there is, I think with rugby in general as a sport, even when you're playing, there's a mentality of you've got to earn your stripes. You've got to get down to training each week. You've got to bang it out, and you've got to make the first team, grind your way up. And that mentality is brought over, because they're all rugby players, into the kind of
the audience that are consuming it.
Yeah, and including the people that are employing the presenters and stuff. So they're kind of like, you're not a traditional sports broadcaster. You're not a journalist. You haven't done commentary. You've just been on reality, in their minds, been on reality TV, and now you're trying to get into rugby. We can't just gift you a path. Like, you've got to earn your stripes. And I'm like, cool, I understand that. I'm willing to do it. Like, I now I know, I'm like 32. I know the work that needs to be done. So I'm executing it. Whereas probably 10 years ago, I've had a bit more ego and been like,
let me jump the queue.
Yeah.
Something that I've been talking about a lot from, I've been doing sales coaching the last kind of 6-7 months alongside my day job. And a lot of the guys that I coach are in different sectors. I mean, it really varies. Somebody was in security cameras, somebody was in weights equipment, somebody was in bathrooms and kitchen sales. It really varies. And one of the key themes is you position yourself as a trusted advisor, regardless of what sector you're in.
Nice.
So I moved from insurance to furniture in 2021, and it's been a massive success in terms of fiscally and what I've been able to do. But I really spent 3-4 months becoming an expert in the furniture that goes into the student accommodation that I sell into,
right,
because I became credible. In the same way, if you were to go from broadcasting in one area to another, you have to turn up with this passion for rugby that you've got. Otherwise, I understand why a broadcaster would bristle and be like, who's this reality TV guy that's come in to try and talk about rugby? 100%. But you're like, actually, I've been in love with the sport since I was 4. I'm an encyclopedia of knowledge. I do my research, and like, I've got a great question I want to ask Marcus Smith, or I saw your stuff with Lawrence Delalio. Like, you were ready for that because you actually cared about rugby. You're not just a presenter.
Yeah, and the Delagio stuff was really interesting because I went to his camp when I was 7. His Delagio training camp.
Saw the photo, actually.
Yeah, it's really good. So I did that when I was 7. So it's like a big full circle moment where I was like, hey, look, here's a picture of us when we were 7. I'm still here, kind of like I'm still pursuing rugby. And he found it so endearing. And for somebody like that who's won a World Cup to be like, yeah, mate, keep going. You've got what it takes. Then that's so nice to hear, right? It's like those people at the top level, and I think all the other people in rugby, they're so like, bring it in, like, let's push this sport together. They're like, let's do it. It's kind of when you get into the trickier people who maybe are overlooking 4 or 5 sports, or they're a broadcaster, or they're responsible for diversity and inclusion or anything like that. That's where the blockers are, I think.
That's such a shame, because I mean, I'm a big believer in the best person for the job, regardless of creed, color, or anything like that.
Of course, yeah.
And I would want to listen to somebody who's an expert in the sport, whether they're blue, green, white, or yellow, or whatever color they are, right? And I just want them to come and be knowledgeable, ask great questions, provide a platform for the players to express themselves as well. Because I think so many interviews are so sterile as well, and it's the same questions and same lines, and like almost having a pattern interrupt where somebody says, Marcus, like, you played really well today, like, and then they follow up with a question that lets him express himself, rather than like, are you looking forward to next week, or what do you think about playing Scotland next week, or are you pleased to get the bonus point today? Of course they're going to say yes.
Yeah,
it's an obvious question.
Yeah, and I think sports players are so media trained that it takes a very special type of person to bring their personality out, and that for me should always be ex-players and pundits. So the punditry is where I should have really no business being, in my opinion, because that's where the ex-players who've put their body on the line for the last 20 years or whatever should be like gifted an opportunity if they're even reasonably personable. And people like Hugo Monnier, who does both, but he is so good at getting the players relaxed and engaged, and they trust him, because half the time they're on a bit edge, like, are you going to make me look silly here? But they trust him. But where I want to be is like that anchor role where I can engage with them, link, basically. So Hugo said to me, actually, the best bit of advice I ever got was, presenting is just knowing where you're coming from and knowing where you've got to go to. So the focus isn't on you. It's about, well, you do it really well. It's about taking someone probably from another show or the game and giving it to you to talk about the expertise of it, and then back to me to go to the next place, wherever that is, the next show.
It's a transfer. Yeah,
it's just a transfer. It's really simple. And that's what I like about it. I think the pundits need to just stick and do their punditry because they're so good at it, and they've earned the respect at playing at the highest level. And And I've obviously played amateur and still do, but it's a different ball game.
When it comes to pursuing something like this full time, how do you square the circle at home of financially being able to go and chase after this dream?
So I have a business called Flint Social, which is basically helping brands build social media channels, similar to what I did for myself. We have a number of brands on retainer, and we just do constant shoots with them, edit, distribute across the social media channels, bit of social media management for them. We work with some pretty significant partners, which is amazing. And that business is kind of light touch for me. Something we can chat about business wise is I've always struggled to get the business away. I started as a freelancer. I started hiring people. I've always struggled to get the business away from being Alex is working with us.
That's right.
And every time I get somebody and try and offload it, it always comes back to me somehow, either performance decreases.
People like to deal with the boss, they do.
Yeah. And it's not even the boss. I think it's just because I had that authenticity of building my own channels. They just want me to do that for them. So anyway, that's a whole nother story, but that's where I earn the money to fund the lifestyle that I have, which is very, very minimal. But that's what I use as my fallback, basically. And that allows me to pursue this dream.
I think having a skill set that you built, we were joking about in your mid-20s when you were throwing shit at a wall, that's turned into a business that's facilitating the background, that isn't totally hands off, but is lighter touch, that allows you to have the bandwidth to come for a day podcasting and to do sports presenting when the opportunity opens up, is a very valuable, I don't want to say safety net, but thing to have in the background that allows you to be creative. And I think many people consider that. So been a couple of years ago now, I spoke to a finance YouTuber called Damien Talks Money. He's got a great podcast, he's got a great YouTube channel, and he saved up his quote unquote emergency fund for 9 months of mortgage and like car payments, food shopping, all that sort of stuff, right? And he was like, right, I'm going to quit my day job. I've got a YouTube channel that's bubbling along. I'm going to go all in on the YouTube channel. Well, I've got that there. So some people either have to fiscally save up a particular amount that allows them to have their lifestyle, or they have to have a business or investments or something that ticks along in the background that allows them to chase the dream. Because I'm not predisposed as a personality perspective to burn the boats and just go all in on something if I don't have a safety net.
100%. You're right. You can't be all in on risk as well. If you're all in on everything and risk, it just becomes every rejection email you get builds up that mental load. You're nervous, you get anxious. If it's lower risk and I've always got this business that I can focus on, and sometimes I do need to shift and put like a month or 2 months real focus on it just to make sure everything cracks on and the warning signs appear and I go, oh shit, and then go over there and do that. That's so valuable in this pursuit of whatever it is you're trying to achieve, because when it's all risk, it's just not a fun place to be, I don't think.
You mentioned Dalalo encouraging you, Ugamonya giving you some great advice. Have there been any other figures that you've taken stuff from along the journey so far?
All of them. I can't, even the broadcasters, everyone I've met has been so welcoming. It's mainly what I struggle with is there's no path. I need like a fitness plan, but in presenting to be like, hit this. If you hit your 10,000 steps a day and you hit your calories, you will achieve this, or you might have a better chance of doing it. And because there's not that, I've just been having to like push here, push there, try and hit every door until one opens, get through to the next level, work away. So it's a bit more time consuming, but everyone I've met has been so welcoming. I just think behind the scenes, there's a lot of potential barriers, whether all the things I've mentioned that could stop me. It could deter me from doing it, but you have to show that you're not going to be stopped. You've got to be undeniable, right?
If you're new to the podcast, make sure you've hit the subscribe or the follow button on whatever platform you're listening on, so I can keep getting fantastic guests just like this one.
Basically, presenting full-time would be my dream. And full-time has differing...
I was going to ask, well, how do you define that? Some sort of retainer?
In the rugby space, yeah, a weekly show of some sort where I can get the reps in, learn, build, and also obviously build revenue from that as well. Currently it's just the odd couple £100 here, couple £100 there each gig. But if I got good at it, I think I could get a regular gig somewhere, even if it's not rugby, that allows me to go home, live my life with my kids, do a bit of research 3-4 days a week, 2 days work, that's a really nice
That's
dream,
like the dream, isn't it? And it's important to have something to aim for. And interestingly, a theme that's come up with a lot of guests is having that North Star, but it's quite important to have something to aim away from too. So something you don't want to go back to. And sometimes Flint Social is not that for you because you enjoy what you do there, but sometimes having something that you hate that pushes you away from it can drive you twice as fast because again, cheesy thing that Jordan Peterson always talks about. They did a study where there's a mouse in a cage and they've got a coil in its tail and they waft the smell of cheese in front of it and they measure how hard it pulls towards the cheese.
That's interesting.
Pulls hard, right? The second mouse is in another cage, coil around the tail again, cheese in front, smell of a cat behind, pulls twice as hard because of course it's going towards something but it's trying to get away from something
so
too.
Interesting.
So sometimes that's why the whole burn the boats thing can work. Like you just like fuck up your entire life and you're like, this has to work because this, I need to get away from this, I need to get towards this. I personally am not that way wired, but I see why people do it.
I did burn the boat. Well, did I? Maybe not, because I had like the show winnings from the reality TV shows. It wasn't like burning the boats, but I did quit the day job in terms of office work and just broke free of that. And it wasn't so much a burn the boats moment, but it was a risk. And I was thinking, this doesn't work. But you very quickly put a lot into it. It's effort gets reward. And that's something that I think I learned the hard way, because I used to think like sometimes no matter how hard I try it, it's not going to work. And I would just think that. But until you do it, you're like, oh, wow. I look back now and I've got a meeting tomorrow, which I'm a bit nervous about. So I was like writing down all the things I've done in the rugby space. And I was like, Jesus Christ. You don't, until you stop and think, you're like,
it's a body of evidence to reassure you.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, the effort I'm putting in is paying off. But before that, I used to just think, oh, I'm just trying and not getting anything back. But sometimes for me, my mind's quite visual. And I got it down on paper and I was like, that's like 18 things that I've done in rugby, which is like a bigger CV than half the community.
Over a short period of time as well.
Yeah, over a year or whatever. So yeah, it's super exciting. But you're definitely right. Sometimes burning the boats is perhaps the best way forward if you're looking to achieve that.
It can push you a little that tiny bit harder.
Yeah. But then I kind of lean into the freedom aspect of being a business owner quite a lot, which sometimes means less effort in business and more just about like looking after my kid or doing those things.
How do you strike the balance between that? Because new fatherhood is time consuming and you want it to be time consuming because it feels great. And of course, chasing this media career.
How do I balance it? We have an arrangement currently where I do 1 day a week with my son, just like during the week, and my wife also does a day a week. So we only have childcare 3 days a week. It's like having to pay another salary, which is mental, childcare.
UK childcare has spiraled out of control.
Yeah, I don't know.
People talk about inflation. It's not an inflation increase it's had.
I mean, I love the people there, but the last 2 days over the bank holiday, so Tuesday and the Thursday before the bank holiday, Tuesday after, we had to pay for them to have a holiday. So we paid the day rate and they were shut, which is mental, isn't it? And I'm sat at home thinking like, I'm having to miss a day of work here to look after Joss. Love it. Don't get me wrong. Caveat on everything that I say in this podcast. Love my son to bits. Parenting is tough, but I'm still having to pay that. And I'm like, I'm paying for their holiday and I'm sat here missing a day of work. It's mental. It's absolutely mental.
How do you balance things then? You've got the childcare 3 days a week, your wife takes a day off, you take a day off, and you spend the time with him, which again, you would probably pay for to have that time with him. Like you're only going to see him once at this age.
100%. I think what surprises me is how, I never really knew this before, but I think with parenting, I'm surprised at our parents' generation that being present wasn't as focused on for the man as perhaps it is now.
Physically present. Because society is just set up wrong for parents, particularly dads. I'm going to give this a shake. Sorry. Yeah, let's do it. So get hydrated, bro. Yeah, exactly. The problem is fathers have to work. I'm still the breadwinner in my relationship, even though my wife has a full-time job. It's just I get paid more. Fathers often have to do that. And I saw a statistic that was like fathers spend on average 6.5 hours a week with their son or their children, sorry, which to me was like nothing. That's mental. That's less than an hour a day.
that should be screaming alarm bells, I would say, for governments, whatever, to be like, we need to support fathers, as mothers also, but fathers too, to get that time off work to be present for their child. Because back in my parents' generation, sometimes, like, I think my dad just used to be out at work until like 8 p.m. and I'd be asleep at 6. So he'd see me for a little bit in the morning for breakfast. And I think that's what's been really important to me, is just being present for him. And I've got detract from where we were in your question, but no,
it's balancing that. And I'm interested, because when you are pursuing your goals that you care about, one of the goals you care about is becoming a sports presenter, but one of your goals you care about is being a good father too. And those can be competing interests potentially on your time, at least. And I hear what you say when it comes to parents being present and being around their children, and that's become harder and harder, because more often than not we actually now need 2 incomes to raise a child. That a big factor in that is the quality of our money and the inflationary environment we live in, because of 40 grand salary a few years ago was a lot more than it is now, or at least enough to have a bit more support. And that makes things really difficult from a lifestyle perspective, and the ability to pay for childcare, for you to have the time off, for you to be at home with your son when you can be.
Yeah. And I think it's not the fault of the parents. It's just a societal structure that makes it, as you say, everything's so expensive now. We can barely get by. Like, we're paid really well and we can barely get by in London. So I think if that's a representation of what's things like outside of London too, lower wages, still high living costs, it's virtually impossible to raise a child, be present. Also, you're influenced by like soft parenting and all the kind of parental norms that are put on us from social media as well. So it's a really high pressure environment being a parent. And I'm like, now I would love a garden, and like in my head I'm going, I'd love a garden or the ability to like cook a barbecue for his birthday. 10 years ago that wasn't a privilege. You'd just be able to do that because you'd have a house with a garden, or 20 years ago, whatever. Now I'm like, I need to get out this 1-bed flat, but every angle I try and take is blocked because it's just too expensive.
I saw one of your clips that went viral. You were talking about, how are all these houses £1 million?
Yeah, where's
and
all
who's
these millionaires?
buying them all?
Yeah, where I don't know any millionaires. So who's buying all these £1 million houses?
So to get a mortgage for that, your salary probably needs to be about 250, 300k.
Mental.
That's a lot of money.
That's mental. And obviously, being a small business owner, my salary is very low anyway.
From a tax perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and also a dividend perspective, I think it's just, to be able to withdraw 250, you have to be making a lot of profit. Do you know what I mean? So I think, it's virtually impossible to do that in London. And my wife works in London. So unless we're going to completely uproot everything our whole lives and move to the sticks somewhere and commute, England's infrastructure isn't that great, then we're going to struggle. So we're kind of stuck in this little conundrum.
Would you describe yourself as a dadfluencer? Because you're probably the first person that I've like followed closely that I would put in that bracket.
Thank you. Fatherhood means a lot to me because when I was younger, my dad passed away with alcoholism. So I think I've been striving ever since that happened. I was 11 when that happened, which is quite a pivotal time in life. I think to any times it's a pivotal time to lose a parent, but
it's formative.
Yeah, that was formative time. And our family unit got closer. I got an amazing stepdad who I now call dad. Love him. He's been incredible to me. I became basically like a father to my brother, who's 4 years younger than me at the time. So being a father was like everything I ever strove for. And when I became one, I was like, right, that's not happening to him. Do you know what I mean? And nothing's happening to him where I was just trying to protect him and give him the best possible life he possibly could have, because losing a father kind of messed me up a bit when I was younger. So with that in mind, being a dadfluencer is like a massive compliment, because I'm just trying to give him the best possible life and raise awareness of those bits that are stopping that from happening, like high childcare costs, difficulty getting time off work, lower high living costs, lower wages that don't allow you to have those things like a garden to go and play with, or to be able to go on holiday or whatever it is. So I think that's become really important to me since becoming a dad. And it was before, but I didn't realize how much that had impacted me when I was young.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, man. And I think, like I was saying, it's nice to have something to aim away from, and you never want your child to experience the challenges you had in your early teens.
That might be it. You might have identified that. It's like therapy.
Free therapy session, bro.
Yeah.
Podcast bro
If this
science
was-
therapy. Yeah, it all works. I'm not licensed, just in
To
case
be
anyone's
honest,
going to call
there's
me out.
nothing wrong with a bit of bro science therapy, man. I think that's interesting. Maybe because I'm pulling away from that experience is what's driving me so hard into these things. Like, I'm good at presenting. Maybe if I double down on it, start earning money from it, I'll be able to give him a better standard of life because my time will be more free. And maybe that's what I'm identifying as, like, presenting sport, because sport happens so like sporadically on a weekend or whatever. You get more time available, but it's still paid enough to cover. Do you see what I mean there?
Yeah, it does. It gives a lifestyle balance.
That's interesting. You might have
There's
identified
something in
something.
that.
Yeah.
How do you find the balance of sharing your son online? Because I know maybe from like a privacy or a safety perspective, I know that's a big consideration for a lot of families.
It's super hard, man. It's very hard. It's a hard discussion between my wife and I as well, because we both kind of agreed beforehand we'll try and limit sharing him on social, but we've both found ourselves doing it even unintentionally, and we both call each other out on it all the time. And then it, like, if I do it, I go, well, you did it yesterday on your post. She goes, no, but that's only got the side of his face. And then you get really specific about it. So
you can have rules, can't you?
It's difficult. You're incentivized to do it. Content with them performs better than content without. Brands who I've worked with have it as a requirement in their contracts that you share your baby's face in the content. Don't know why that is. Doesn't seem to be much value to what it is. Say it's a nappy company, for example. I don't see why having their face in it is relevant to the nappy being a good nappy, but you're incentivized to do it. But the incentivization is views and engagement. But then when you look back at it, you're like, why is the picture of my son getting 100,000 views more than a picture without? Like, who are these people? Where do they come from? Why are they suddenly interested? That's where it starts getting a bit sketchy in your mind, because you're like, somewhere in there's probably some people that you wouldn't want looking at your son.
I understand that. If 100,000 people you walked past, like, I mean, I had this thought experiment with a friend the other day. He was questioning why online can be so crazy, and I was like, walk down again the main shopping street in Glasgow. City centre is Buchanan Street, but we could do it in Bond Street or wherever in London. If you walk past 100 people, how many people would you stop and say hello to out of them, or what to have a conversation with? Very few. Online, extrapolate that out. These are all the same people you're walking down past the street are the same people that are scrolling their phone.
Yeah.
You wouldn't probably want to engage with an awful lot of them. Obviously, we build these kind of like micro niche tribes that we want to follow us. And then you get exposed sometimes to the outside world outside of that, and you're like, there's a whole lot of crazy.
And then you're exposed to comments and thoughts on you from people that you just would never even give the time of day to. Yeah, it's crazy.
My TikTok's a war zone. It's so funny because I talk about like self-development, personal responsibility, trying to improve your financial situation, trying to control what you put in your mouth and your brain and your body, maybe limit some of the toxins you take in through maybe pharmaceuticals that people are taking a lot of. The comment section can be wild.
Really?
People don't like to have a light shone on potential issues or inadequacies, and I'm not saying they're inadequacies necessarily, but I'm saying they might be challenges. And if you scratch something, sometimes you end up touching a gaping wound, not just a sensitive spot.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can't remember. I need to think of the topic that I touched on recently, and I was just
swamped.
Yeah, you know, sometimes when you have no business being in that world either. I do that sometimes. I like have a thought about something and I stick something out and I go, oh no, why do I do that? Yeah, I don't think a lot before I make content. I need to think more. It was something about mental health. I'll think about it.
Well, speaking of mental health, how do you fit in your fitness now as a dad?
Oh, top line, I don't.
Really?
But I do my best to. So when I first had my son, I think fitness was I had to rethink how I approach my fitness. I'm a 5 days a week gym guy normally, just for my mental health more than anything. Just having that space, that time away, off grid, no phones, getting sweaty and angry is really helpful. So when I had my son, I was like, I need to rethink how I work out. My time's limited now. I've got a newborn baby. Maybe I'll start running. And that's why I picked up running, which was really nice. Time efficient. It's easy to track, easy to do because you just got to put a pair of trainers on and go. And yeah, you can be in and out and back. And also it just feels nice. It's a different feeling to the gym, in my opinion. It's like you come up and you're just like, oh, I'm clear. Where sometimes I come out from the gym, especially if I've had a pre-workout and I'm like trying to just like
Jittery.
Yeah, I'm jittery. I'm like trying to sleep. So I think
to have a caffeine cut off, Alex. We need to talk about this.
No, this is middle of the day. I've just got a crash afterwards. Running gave me that mental clarity whilst having a newborn, and I just started running, doing trail runs. And it was great, and it was really nice. And that's where I got my fitness back on track. However, there's certain times throughout a child's life where sleep gets worse, certain times throughout business where the demand on you is more, and these fluctuations and these things that you can't control suddenly were really difficult, because you've got this one anomaly where you could be like, tomorrow I'm going to the gym at 7 a.m. Say to the wife, I'm going to the gym at 7 a.m. Agreed, cool. 6:45 he throws up, and your just whole day is derailed, and it's something you can't control. Whereas anything else, if the dog threw up, if my wife threw up, that's cool, you can still go. But with this, you can't. It's like something you can't control, and that derails me more than ever. And not just illness, just anything. Nursery's closed. The other day there was like some sort of threat at the nursery, so I had to like leave work and go and collect. I don't know what was going on there, some sort of terrorism thing.
Yeah.
I had to go and collect him. So it's like those moments can really derail you mentally from your fitness journey. And I've been balancing that basically. So this morning, took him to nursery in the pram, ran back 3K, got it in.
You're trying to fit it in when you can.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're a better dad when you're exercising?
Yeah, massively. It's a conundrum.
A couple of my friends, I was staying at my friend's house in Clapham, and he says since New Year he's been a lot more focused. He was never super heavy or overweight, but he was maybe carrying like 7 or 8 kilos more than he normally did kind of at university. It's fighting weight, and he's lost that 7 kilos in the first kind of 4 months of 2025, and he's like, I'm just higher energy, I'm much more dialed, I just feel better about life.
100%.
And he looks healthier too. And I'm not a father yet, but I will set an example for my kids, how I look, how I speak, how I behave, how I hold myself, how I operate, because monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
They're
Literally.
watching you the whole time.
Yeah.
You better set a good example.
100%. And I didn't realize how much they were learning until recently. I put on a song I haven't listened to in ages, and he just started singing it. I used to listen to it loads when he was like 3 to 7 months or whatever, and he just starts like reciting the words, and I'm going, whoa,
wow.
Every time I've sworn in front of you, you've probably like
Internalized it.
Yeah, internalized that. That's crazy. So I think, as you say, monkey see, monkey do, but also for me, my mood's better. I'm more stable. I'm not saying I'm unstable when I'm not, but like aggression, anger-wise, if something happens to me, somebody cuts me off in the road, whatever, if I've worked out, I'm probably going to have a different reaction to if somebody nearly crashed into me and I hadn't. I'm a bit heightened when I haven't exercised in terms of my emotional state. So I think that's really good for calming and regulation, because when they're having a breakdown, the last thing you want to do is raise that by getting angry or upset with them. And if you can keep that calm kind of sort of not mentality, but that calm exterior. Emotional state with them, calm exterior, then they really bounce off that and they just absorb it, and they're like, oh, and it brings everything down, which is nice. And then I think fitness wise, you just basically have to, if you're about to have a child, just start walking around with a 10 kilo weight in your hand, because that's basically what you do all day.
I saw you wear the kind of bungee thing out a run.
Yeah, I love that.
And you were like, my time is a lot more than I normally run a 5K in.
Yeah. I've done it I run with a pram. That's really difficult. So pram running is really hard because you don't realize how much forearm work, even those little inclines, and you're pushing a 10 kilo, 15 kilo baby. That's difficult. You come off and my forearms were just like pumped. I also started running with a weight vest before I had him, which mainly was because I wanted to get more bang for my buck. I wanted to run for a shorter amount of time. Probably not great for your joints.
It's efficient though.
Yeah, short amount of time, but also get a bit of a weight session in. So I was wearing a 10 kilo weight, basically like running as if I was 10 kilos heavier. And that was good. And I think that paid dividends, because now I can be walking for like 20 minutes at a time with just him on my... and we don't have hips, right? As men, as much as women do, where they like do that weird hip thing. So I'm just pure forearm bicepping him. And it's just like holding a weight just like that.
Isometric hold.
Yeah. And then swapping arms and doing that. So that's what I'd recommend. But yeah, as you say, fitness is so key for dads.
Is there anything you're doing for your recovery to make sure you're dialed?
So recovery wise, sleep is a commodity that is hard to find at the moment. We take it in turns. Basically what happens is he sleeps until like 2 a.m. and then he could be awake for 5 minutes to 2 hours sometimes. So that can throw recovery off massively. But electrolytes has been super key to that. I didn't realize, electrolytes wise, how impactful they could be. I always used to drink like a Lucozade Sport and be like, oh, I'm getting my...
But all the sugar that comes with that.
Yeah, it's mental.
So bad.
So for sports performance, for running, but also I found for rugby as well, getting electrolytes in. I always get it in daily these days just because it makes me feel better.
I just spoke to Hugh Jones recently, who plays 13 for the Warriors, and hopefully the Lions this summer.
Yeah.
And he was saying that the difference it's made to him from a performance perspective is massive. And I know that I've experimented with so many different like electrolyte mixes over the years, but when I found the Pure Sport ones that actually had like 1,000 meg of sodium, I was like, now I realise what I've been dabbling. Now I'm taking it seriously.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm deficient in just the usual stuff: potassium, magnesium, calcium, all the things you can find in a electrolytes drink with no sugar. I think having that regularly, I normally just wake up and smash one because I just feel better.
Well, if I touch wood, if I'm in bed for 8-9 hours, sometimes less, of course, but if you're jealous of that number, you are going to be dehydrated.
Yeah. And I think that's just, even starting your day like that can have a massive impact on the whole day, not just that first period. But I think at the amateur level in sports, you really notice these things because they're big changes. So when I go to a rugby match and I play and I get cramp in like the last 10 minutes, I'll think back and I'll go, I'm just not hydrated enough here. I didn't like have electrolytes today or anything. I didn't hydrate properly. So I started taking that more serious, and I just was like, I feel like a superhuman right now. That combined with things like CBD, the CBD freeze roller.
You use
from
the
Pure
roll
Sport.
on? Okay, yeah. Because the ingestibles aren't around anymore, but you've got the roll on now.
My whole team, like, it's a bit gross. My whole team just smashes this one roller. I get it out of my bag, and everyone's like, "Oh mate, do you have this?" And then you get it back, and it's got like all sorts of hairs on it. And
the
stuff,
CBD dealer, bro.
Yeah, literally.
I got that Pure Sport hook up in the bag.
Yeah, I just get it out, and you just see all these like 100-kilo guys just like, can I use up on that, bro? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I get it back, and I'm just in the corner, just like, oh, this is gross. Just like trying to clean all their hairs off whilst I do it. But loosens you up properly. I think if you can't sleep, the things I can control is like stretching, supplementation, and those little kind of bonuses like the CBD freeze roll on or other kind of creams. I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes if I'm really, really sore and not recovered, I still want to get a session in. I'll just have to like push through the pain.
Because there's only a limited amount of time and days you can.
Yeah. Like I just go really light. I've seen a massive decrease in the amount of weight that I can utilize now. And I'm not sure, that's probably just a recovery thing really, and a nutrition thing, because you don't have the same time to like, I need to get better with meal prep and stuff.
Yeah.
I think because where my head goes is instead of eating crap, I just eat less. And then I'm suffering as a result of that.
Yeah. One of the things I was really interested to ask you, we're both a similar age, and the kind of final thing I want to consider, given the kind of mission that you're on, what would success look like by the age of 40?
Oh, 40. It's coming up quick, isn't it?
Not too quick. We've got 8 years, bro.
It feels like it. 33 this year.
I
can't.
1992 club you now, yeah.
Yeah. When's your birthday?
October.
Oh, nice. July for me. My business partner was like, it's your 34th birthday next year. And I was like, mate, just calm down. Just calm down.
Not even 33 yet.
Throwing those
Stop
numbers
swearing
around. Mate, it's psycho. So what would success be like for 40 for me would be to have a balance of work and life that is more heavily skewed with life than work, but in a better financial position than I am now, if that makes sense. So I'd rather work for a small amount of time, maximize how many times I have off as free days to spend with my son and my family, but also be in a better financial position. And now, like, that's a bit of a juxtaposition, right? So I need to figure out what that is. And I do feel like the path I'm pursuing could lead to that.
And it feels good along the way.
Yeah, and it feels good along the way. Yeah, 100%. Because I think that's what I've been doing my entire career, is just trying to find a way of getting a better work-life balance than I already have. And it's good now. So it's like, how can I keep clawing away at that, but also have the standard of life that I'm pursuing in terms of a house, a garden, preferably in London. Unlikely, but we'll see.
Totally agree. Well, really cool to hear, Alex, and I feel like you're pushing full throttle towards that and doing it in a way with a smile on the face at the same time.
Yeah, try, man. Thank you so much.
If listeners want to continue the conversation with you, where should they head towards? Where should they
head
follow?
over to Alex Hobern on Instagram. Don't look at my TikTok, it's a bit dodgy. And yeah, you can just message me on Instagram.
Well, I'm going to link your Instagram. I'm linking your TikTok for that. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Alex. Really enjoyed it. And thank you to the listener. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.